Muy buenas tardes.
I wish all delegations a very good afternoon. The 23rd plenary meeting of the substantive session of the United Nations Conference to negotiate a legally binding instrument to prohibit nuclear weapons leading towards their total elimination is called to order. We have convened this plenary meeting in order to share the progress that we are achieving in the negotiations of the text of the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons. And in order to give you an idea of the roadmap for the next week's work, taking us towards the approval of the treaty, the reports that you are receiving from the facilitators, which I've numbered, do indicate to me that major progress has been made in negotiations to adapt the articles of the text that require amendments or reviews. I am pleased to inform you that we have achieved extremely significant progress in all working groups, and that all delegations are working very hard and constructively to achieve this great progress. I would like to say to you, as president of this conference, that I am delighted at the extremely hard and dedicated work that everybody here in this room is carrying out, as well as in your respective capitals. The commitment of this conference to conclude on a text of the treaty and approve it next Friday, the 7th of July, is very clear to me. We all know that this is an historic opportunity facing us. After decades of waiting and of untiring diplomatic, scientific, academic work, considering victims, etc., everybody is represented here in this room in a conference that is working minute by minute in order to take advantage of this wide gamut of opportunities that we have and that we can generate with the outcome, so that we can, all of us, bring to the international community a common good to prohibit and then in the future totally eliminate nuclear weapons. With every word that we agree upon, we move towards our final goal, and we can only decide that we will achieve our aim in what remains of the time to us. We will need to approve a treaty as quickly as possible, and this will be the fruit of the work all of you have carried out. In order to achieve our goal here, we shall continue working after this plenary session. But before I move on to talk of issues and processes and the organization of work, I shall give the floor to the facilitators that I designated so that they can share with the conference the progress made in the working sessions. I would also like to tell you that the texts of the articles where this progress has been made and which have been looked at in the facilitated sessions have been compiled so that delegations can possess them, analyze them, and refer them to their capitals. Until just a few moments ago, the facilitators have been working, and we shall be posting these on the conference website so that you will be able to share them with those in your capitals today.
A las 5:30 de la tarde.
At 5:30 this afternoon, this information will appear on the website, and you will be able to look at it there. Looking at the heading under Documents, so that you can look at it now as we're working in this plenary session. May I first of all say that personally I have facilitated a working session to review Article 1. We worked on this yesterday, and I shall summarize as soon as we conclude this plenary session at 6 o'clock this afternoon. We agreed on including the subject of threat in the text of Article 1.
El inciso
Subparagraph D of Article 1 will read as follows. As you will be able to see in a moment or two when the compilation, the compiled text has been finalized.
or threaten to use nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. En el grupo de trabajo
In the working group, which was reviewing Article 1, there are two issues which remain under negotiation: testing and transit. And as I was saying, this group will, at 6 o'clock, learn of the outcome of the negotiations carried out by delegations today. So then the amendments to the text of Article 1 will be revealed to us. Regarding the articles of the group 2 to 5, where I asked Madam Eleanor Nolan from Ireland to conduct the facilitated working sessions, I shall now give her the floor to comment on the progress made.
The delegation of Ireland has the floor.
It's on. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, as requested by you, I undertook facilitation on Articles 2 to 5 on Wednesday, Thursday and today, which concluded at approximately 4:15 p.m. This was a collaborative process. There was a very constructive engagement by all delegations present and a very strong determination to make progress. It might be helpful if I share a little with the plenary regarding our working method, which I agreed with the group. To shape our work, we employed the following guiding questions. Firstly, for each article, and then for the cluster as a whole, given that these articles are closely interconnected. We asked ourselves, what is it that we are trying to achieve? Does the current draft text reflect this? If not, what is it that we may need to add, to delete, or change? and this was the point where language proposals were then brought forward. Then, once we had prepared a revision to the text, we asked ourselves, is our solution technically and legally sound? And we continued to do our utmost to stress test and further refine the draft. In this work, we have identified a small number of pending issues in Article 4 which remain to be resolved. However, the product of our work, which you are circulating, represents our best efforts within the time frame for our work. This is the closest we have got on these issues. I don't propose to go through the whole text because it is rather long. For clarity, I will point out that there is here no Article 5, even though our mandate was Articles 2 to 5. But it was the view of the group, upon consideration of Article 5, that it could be deleted, provided that these issues are sufficiently covered within current Article 9 on meetings of states parties. Madam President, as we concluded our work rather quickly earlier, I would, with your permission, like to convey my personal thanks to the group with which I have been working for their collaborative spirit, and to say how much I personally appreciate the very constructive and supportive manner in which they engaged in this facilitation process, and the real generosity with which they shared their tremendous expertise among each other. I'd also really like to commend them for their positive attitude and their good humour, which made the facilitation both a creative and a productive process. And finally, Madam President, I would like very much to thank you and to thank your team for the excellent support and assistance which they provided our group for this facilitation process. Thank you, Madam President.
Le agradezco mucho.
I should like to thank Eleanor Nolan very warmly indeed. Ireland has the floor.
I beg your pardon, Madam President. I'm working off 3 separate pieces of paper and I have neglected to make 2 points which are very important. I need to report that one state has expressed a reservation on Article 3 on safeguards. And I also need to acknowledge that all delegations will be sending this draft to their capitals for feedback, including the members of our facilitation group. And my apologies for neglecting to say that in my first statement. Thank you for allowing me to take the floor.
Le agradezco mucho a la
I wish to thank Ms. Eleanor Nolan very warmly indeed for her work, facilitating work on those articles. They are obviously a core part of the text of the treaty. And I would also like to congratulate you, Ms. Nolan, and everybody, all delegates who took part in this working session in order to arrive at this outcome which you will be referring tonight to your capitals.
solicité.
I asked Ambassador Alfredo Labé from Chile to facilitate the discussions on Articles 6 to 8 of the text of the treaty. I would like to give the floor to the delegation of Chile to share with the conference a briefing of what you looked at in the documents that is actually being sent out to everybody.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I should like to apologize for Ambassador Lebey, who is not able to be here today, just at this moment, but I would like to recount to you what happened. Ambassador Lebey was responsible for facilitating Articles 6 to 8, the group looking at that. This worked yesterday and continued this morning. The spirit, I must highlight, was one of collaboration, cooperation on the part of all delegations taking part. Article 6 and Article 7 were the result of a compromise document for us. We managed to achieve that. On Article 8, regarding each of its points, we did arrive at a consensus document. Just for one aspect, there's an exception in a subpoint, a couple of concepts where no agreement was reached, but however, the text was extremely close to what we achieved. I think we managed to work significantly and arrive finally at a text which was supported by all delegations. Thank you.
Le agradezco mucho a la delegación de
I should like to thank Chile very much for telling us about the progress you made. And I would also like to thank Ambassador Lebey and each of the delegations who worked so actively in reviewing Articles 6 to 8 of the treaty and revising them.
También le solicité
I also asked the Ambassador of Thailand to facilitate the work of those groups looking at Articles 9 to 21.
Thank you, Madam President.
Ambassador Pasay, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On Articles 9 to 21, as per your instruction, I conducted facilitation today from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. non-stop, and I must commend the willingness of the delegates to engage in discussion for 4 hours, and they show a will to come to an agreement on most of the difficult and pending issues. On each of the questions, I opened the floor and listened carefully to all the delegates that wanted to express their position. I tried to take into account concerns from all sides and try to get a general feel in the room, which is something that I think is both a science and an art form. I think I have tried my best with good faith to capture that general feel on each of the questions, and hence, with the help of the Secretariat, we produced this new draft. I also tried to be consistent with other parts of this draft treaty, especially those that were evolving. And so finally, by 5, we could get all the elements in place and have this draft out. I would like to thank the group and the delegates for their willingness to engage in this good faith discussion. And I hope that the text produced will be seen by most, if not all, of the delegates as reflecting the right feel in the room this morning. There is one thing, though, that I would like to leave to your privilege as Chair, Madam President. The general feel was we must designate where we would open this for signature. And we have decided for the United Nations headquarters. But as to the date, I think we had a broad agreement that it should be during the high-level segment this year in September, which starts on the 19th. In the text produced, I leave that to the privilege of Madam President, but I remain at your disposal for further consultation. Thank you, Madam.
Le agradezco mucho al embajador.
I should like to thank Ambassador Plasai and his entire delegation. And indeed, I extend my thanks to all delegations involved in these sessions, which he facilitated in order to review the remaining articles of the treaty, including institutional aspects. I really do wish to congratulate all of you on what you've done and the commitment you've displayed. And now I'll tell you what we're going to do henceforth. I would say again that the compilation of the results of the facilitated sessions will be posted on the conference's website entitled Other Documents of the Conference. We just have a slight delay. The posting will have to be at 5:45 rather than 5:30, as I had said, on the basis of the information given to me by the Secretariat. We shall also be holding an informal session starting at 6 in room 6 in order to return to Article 1 and the work thereon, for those delegations interested in this. And then, just by way of indication as to how we intend to proceed, I would invite the conference to return to the review of 6 of the program, to look there at this organization of work in order to examine the program of work for next week. The indicative timetable for the conference for the dates the 3rd to the 7th of July, this has been distributed to delegations in a non-edited early version. It is document A/conf.229/2017/3/addendum 3. I shall now explain to you the main aspects of the proposed program. On Monday in the morning, this is the 3rd of July, the morning of the 3rd of July, my intention is to submit the new revised version of the treaty, firstly to the Secretariat, so that they can start the translation procedures. And during the morning, work will continue with informal consultations where these to prove necessary in order to have a presentation in the afternoon of Monday of the text at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I have been told that the Secretariat needs a minimum of 24 hours to deal with the document. So this then means that if the Presidency is to be in possession of the revised text on Monday, we're going to have to work very hard over the weekend so that we do have a new text acceptable to all delegations, so that the Secretariat can deal with it on Monday morning. As I told you, they need at least 24 working hours. So we're talking about the revised text of the treaty in English. I will present it to all delegations in the plenary session of the conference on Monday afternoon. Tuesday is a holiday. It's an official holiday. It is not a working day for the conference. And we have therefore planned plenary sessions on Wednesday and Thursday in order to deal with any matter that might arise over the next few days. On Friday morning, as indicated in the timetable for next week, the conference will first consider the report of the Credentials Committee before taking action on the draft treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons. The conference will then adopt its procedural report to be issued during the middle of next week. That report touches on all the organizational matters relating to the conference, agenda, documentation, offices of the conference, inter alia. I would like to remind delegations who might so wish to do and have not yet done so, they may submit their written addresses for recording, and so that the conference may be in possession of them. The conference sessions are not only webcast, but they're also recorded and archived as part of the historical records. Are there any questions at this time on what I've just outlined?
La delegación de Cuba.
The delegation of Cuba has asked for the floor. Thank you very much, Madam President. First of all, on behalf of the Cuban delegation, I should like to express to you our congratulations to you and to the Secretariat and all your team for the excellent manner in which you're conducting the conference. Our thanks also go to the facilitators for the important work they've done. We believe that the conference is moving forward in an appropriate manner to achieve our aim of approving on the 7th of July next a treaty that will prohibit nuclear weapons. Regarding issue 5 of Article 5, we have agenda item 5 rather, we have no problem with the work program that you've outlined to us. However, I would like to leave on record our concern at the fact, Madam President, that over the last few days we have simultaneously been holding various advisory, consultation and negotiation meetings on specific issues of the greatest importance. And this obviously makes it hard for smaller delegations, the Cuban delegation amongst them, to provide adequate coverage in all meetings. Just to give you an example, today 4 parallel meetings were being held. One on Articles 9 to the end of the text, one on the matter of transit, one on Articles 6 to 8. And a 4th parallel meeting was also held on Articles 2 to 5. Despite the fact that we are doing our utmost, it's quite obvious that as far as we're concerned, we cannot adequately follow all meetings at the same time. What we're trying to avoid, Madam President, is finding ourselves in a situation where the Cuban delegation in a plenary would have to reopen a preliminary agreement that an advisory meeting might have achieved just because we wouldn't have been able to take part in such a consultative meeting. We're obviously ready to continue to work as long as might prove necessary, including overnight. However, we would ask you kindly to bear in mind this question for next week, so that as far as possible, we can avoid holding more than 2 meetings at the same time to help small delegations in their work. Thank you very much.
Le agradezco a la delegación.
I should like to thank the delegation of Cuba. We are indeed aware of this concern to hold as few meetings as possible. We've tried to do that until the last moment to have the plenary and in the open consultations. As from 6 o'clock, we shall be resuming with just 1 session on Article 1. And it's true that several delegations had divergent views on 2 of the outstanding items. And they held a facilitated session with the ambassador of Mozambique, so that when we come to the open session as from 6 o'clock, the facilitated session, we will be able to count on progress in our conversations.
De manera entonces que quisiera...
So, we have Egypt requesting the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and let me also at the outset thank you for the tremendous work that you have conducted, and also to thank the facilitators for the tremendous work that they have done and the substantial progress that we have achieved so far. For the sake of clarification, Madam President, with regards to the presentation of the final draft treaty that you intend to present on Monday afternoon, is my understanding correct that once they are going to be sent to Capital, and in the event that there are relative concerns or attempts to reintroduce some elements within this final draft treaty, that the 2 sessions that you have outlined here in the indicative timetable on Wednesday and Thursday, this will be the time where we may come back and maybe reintroduce some elements? Is this the intention of the President, to have these 2 plenaries? And as a follow-up, I was wondering if there could be also clarification as to why there would be only 1 session for each of these days and not till 3 till 6, because my understanding here it says from 10 till 1 p.m., and as to whether there will be a session from 3 to 6 as well on Wednesday and on Thursday. I kindly seek your clarification on this issue. Thank you.
Quisiera aclararle que...
I would like to clarify that on Wednesday and Thursday, we have also given you an indication in order to try to be predictable and flexible when it comes to being able to consult with delegations. But we also have to remember that when it comes to the procedures and processes here, the Secretariat has told us that adoption on Friday of the final text means that it has to be sent to all delegations with the 24 hours time. That means the morning of Thursday rather than the day after. So that as from today until then, well, we've got time, but we'll have to deal with translation. That takes time. But we'll have space and flexibility so that we can, this week, attune ourselves to needs. And obviously, at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, that's the deadline for sending it out to enable adoption on Friday. The Netherlands has asked for the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. With the risk of being a bit superfluous, but I think for our delegations, it's important that we flag some of the issues that I'm not going to address. First of all, of course, I would like to thank you and the facilitators and Secretariat and all the colleagues in the room for their constructive engagement. I've of course been impressed by the level of goodwill and the professionalism of everybody involved, and the sincerest thanks of our delegation for that. And as you've said, and some of the facilitators have said, progress has indeed been made with parts of the text. However, at the same time, my delegation also has to conclude that quite a few of our proposals and fundamental concerns have not or insufficiently been addressed. Moreover, in some areas, the text has moved into another direction than we would have wished, and elements were changed or added that do not necessarily correspond with our position. At this stage, I don't think it would be very useful to repeat our concerns or proposals. I think they are pretty well known by now. And that would just unnecessarily lengthen our deliberations. However, I would like to, in particular, flag that our concerns, whether the treaty would be an effective step towards the total elimination of nuclear weapons, the relation of the treaty with the NPT, the level of possible broad support within the UN, wider membership, including possessor states, and issues regarding verification and the compatibility of a treaty with our obligations as a member of NATO. Nevertheless, we will of course continue to engage constructively, and looking forward also to the Article 1 talks that we will have in a few minutes. And we will of course send the new drafts and new text to Capital to receive further instructions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Le agradezco a la delegación de país.
I should like to thank the delegation of the Netherlands for that statement, which we have noted. I see no further requests for the floor, so I would invite all those delegations who are so interested to come with us to room 6 to continue our work on Article 1 as from 6 o'clock.
Puedo considerar.
Can I therefore take it that the conference is able to adopt the indicative timetable proposed by the presidency?
Así queda decidido.
It is so decided. Thank you very much. I should like to thank all of you. And thank you for this fruitful week of work. We're going to continue, but we're forging ahead. And thank you very much indeed for your constructive commitment. The meeting stands adjourned. To review Article 1. We worked on this yesterday, and I shall summarize as soon as we conclude this plenary session at 6 o'clock this afternoon. We agreed on including the subject of threat in the text of Article 1.
Muy buenas tardes.
I wish all delegations a very good afternoon. The 23rd plenary meeting of the substantive session of the United Nations Conference to negotiate a legally binding instrument to prohibit nuclear weapons leading towards their total elimination is called to order. We have convened this plenary meeting in order to share the progress that we are achieving in the negotiations of the text of the treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons. And in order to give you an idea of the roadmap for the next week's work, taking us towards the approval of the treaty, the reports that you are receiving from the facilitators, which I've numbered, do indicate to me that major progress has been made in negotiations to adapt the articles of the text that require amendments or reviews. I am pleased to inform you that we have achieved extremely significant progress in all working groups, and that all delegations are working very hard and constructively to achieve this great progress. I would like to say to you, as president of this conference, that I am delighted at the extremely hard and dedicated work that everybody here in this room is carrying out, as well as in your respective capitals. The commitment of this conference to conclude on a text of the treaty and approve it next Friday, the 7th of July, is very clear to me. We all know that this is an historic opportunity facing us. After decades of waiting and of untiring diplomatic, scientific, academic work, considering victims, etc., everybody is represented here in this room in a conference that is working, that the texts of the articles where this progress has been made and which have been looked at in the facilitated sessions have been compiled so that delegations can possess them, analyze them, and refer them to their capitals. Until just a few minutes ago, the facilitators have been working, and we shall be posting these on the conference website so that you will be able to share them with those in your capitals today.
A las 5:30 de la tarde.
At 5:30 this afternoon, this information will appear on the website, and you will be able to look at it there. Looking at the heading under Documents, so that you can look at it now as we're working in this plenary session. May I first of all say that personally I have facilitated a working session minute by minute in order to take advantage of this wide gamut of opportunities that we have and that we can generate with the outcome, so that we can, all of us, bring to the international community a common good to prohibit and then in the future totally eliminate nuclear weapons. With every word that we agree upon, we move towards our final goal, and we can only decide that we will achieve our aim in what remains of the time to us. We will need to approve a treaty as quickly as possible, and this will be the fruit of the work all of you have carried out. In order to achieve our goal here, we shall continue working after this plenary session. But before I move on to talk of issues and processes and the organization of work, I shall give the floor to the facilitators that I designated so that they can share with the conference the progress made in the working sessions. I would also like to tell you